Spaceship One by Matthew Steinmetz, as told to Naomi Wallace. Holy cow! That was close! Spaceship One's engine ignited right by the mothership, White Knight, which had just carried it on her underbelly to an altitude around 50,000 feet. My job was to ride in White Knight and pull the lever to release the spaceship. The sound of the rocket engine filled the cockpit. Through my small porthole window, I could see the tiny spacecraft as it shot vertically into space. By the voices in my headphones, I could tell it was going to be an award-winning flight. As a kid, I had always dreamed of going to space. I spent hours building different types of model aircraft, sometimes modifying the design. My brother and I even accidentally set a field on fire while shooting off our model rockets. Luckily, the firefighters got there quickly and put the fire out. Spaceship One was part of a two-plane system. It attached to the belly of a mothership, the White Knight. The White Knight carried Spaceship One to an altitude of 50,000 feet. When they reached the right altitude, White Knight crew member Matthew Steinmetz pulled a lever that released Spaceship One. Was he ever nervous when it was time to pull the lever? Not nervous for me, he says. Nervous for the pilot that's about to get launched on an adventurous flight. Once released from the mothership, the pilot of Spaceship One was in control. He ignited his rocket engine and shot almost straight up into outer space. The rocket on the spaceship was a Leffler 2004, a hybrid rocket fueled by a mixture of two substances, in this case, laughing gas and synthetic rubber. Ignited. Something that ignited, caught fire, or exploded. Hybrid. Something can be described as hybrid if it is made up of two or more different things. Synthetic. A synthetic item is artificial rather than natural. My love for flight and aircraft design intensified as I grew older. I earned my bachelor's degree in aeronautical engineering in 1998, and a few months later, I was hired on at Scaled Composites in Mojave, California. Through a little bit of luck and being in the right place at the right time, I was made project engineer for Spaceship One. Our one-of-a-kind spacecraft was being built for the Ansari X Prize competition, which was created to help develop the private spaceflight industry. I spent the next couple of years working many long hours making dreams a reality. One of the toughest parts of my job was not being able to tell my family about it. My dad and my brother share my love for aircraft. They would love to have known all the details of what we were doing, but the project was top secret and I couldn't say a word. The one consolation was that my wife, Kit, also worked at Scaled. We had private discussions sharing our excitement during those top-secret years. White Knight and Spaceship One take off together from the Mojave Airport runway. The public was shown the finished project in April of 2003. My dad came out all the way from Kansas just to see it. I was so glad to have him there so I could show off what I had done. But there was still a lot of work to do. The spacecraft was made, but we had yet to run test flights. I felt honored to be a part of the test flight crew. After many flights of varying difficulty, we were ready to make the first space flight. The date was June 21st, 2004, and it would prove to be a historic day. The sky was still black as we rolled the joined aircraft out of the hangar. I had hardly slept the night before. Every nerve in my body was filled with anticipation. This day would either prove that we had succeeded in making a spacecraft, or it would show that we still had a long way to go. I could feel the tension in the air. Everyone was aware of the dangers of this flight. Until now, no one but trained government astronauts had been to space. And even some of the government missions had ended in disaster. The possibility that someone could die was very real, but no one dared talk about it. Even with all the danger, I was confident we would succeed. Burt Rutan, the president of Scaled Composites, had designed the aircraft and knew what he was doing. Every member of the team who helped build the planes and design the technology was exceptionally intelligent. We all knew what was at stake and had left nothing to chance. At a news conference, aviation designer Burt Rutan describes how SpaceShipOne performed during its test flights. SpaceShipOne pilot Mike Melville waves from the cockpit. I was in my flight suit by 4 a.m. The flight was scheduled to take off in a couple of hours. I tried to calm my nerves as I strapped on my parachute. Looking at the joined aircraft, my nervousness was replaced with excitement. I had looked forward to this day for months now. If all worked out as I expected, this would be our moment of glory. As White Knight taxied onto the runway carrying SpaceShipOne under her, I looked out my small cockpit window at the crowd gathered to watch the flight. It was overwhelming. The fact that thousands of people came to watch a test flight proved that we weren't just a bunch of airplane geeks trying to build a spaceship. It showed that everyday citizens want to see space travel made a reality. The flight to 48,000 feet took almost an hour. There is barely enough room to sit 3 people in the cockpits of White Knight and SpaceShipOne. Even though White Knight's cockpit is comfy, the parachutes and the flight test gear made the space even more cramped, and it was difficult for me to move my arms and legs. After an hour, I was getting sore, but it was worth it to make history. I anticipated the countdown for the release of SpaceShipOne. When the time came, I quickly pulled the small lever at my right side and heard, "Clean release" from the chase aircraft, our extra eyes in the sky. Shortly after the spaceship was clear, the pilot, Mike Melville, ignited the rocket engine and began his solo climb to space. White Knight continued to circle in the sky as we waited to escort SpaceShipOne back to Earth. I studied the curvature of the Earth and the darkness of space overhead as I listened intently to Mike's radio transmissions. Mission Control called 328,000 feet, and I cheered with joy. We later found out that Mike's actual altitude was 328,491 feet, a mere 408 feet past the boundary of space. We had done it. We'd sent a man into space in a spaceship we built with our own hands. Although it took almost an hour for White Knight to carry SpaceShipOne to 50,000 feet, it took less than 20 minutes for the spaceship to come back to Earth. That's because it traveled back at over 100,000 feet per minute. That's about Mach 3, 3 times the speed of sound. As SpaceShipOne landed, I could see the crowd on their feet cheering. Mike was led to a podium, and immediately flashbulbs started going off. News channels all over the world carried the story that the first civilian spaceship had made it safely to space and back again. One of the cool things about SpaceShipOne was that it could take off from almost any airport in the world. The spaceships built by NASA have to take off from special launch pads several hundred yards from spectators. The large rocket boosters used to get them off the ground create a lot of heat and exhaust. How hard is it to be part of a cool project like this? Sometimes It's simply being in the right place at the right time. When Matthew Steinmetz was offered the position of project engineer, he had just finished working on another project and was able to jump right in. But it takes more than luck and timing. It takes a lot of hard work, too. Matt says the subjects that helped him land his job were math, physics, science, and art. One of the biggest thrills he got from this project was just being a part of the team that changed history. We are at the beginning of something huge, Matt says. I can feel the wave forming. The support is huge, and this time the space race is here to stay. Exhaust. Exhaust is the gas that comes out of an engine as a waste product. Physics. Physics is the scientific study of matter and energy. 3 months later, our team made the 2 flights that were required for the X Prize competition. The first flight, piloted by Mike Melville, was on September 29th, followed by the second flight on October 4th, piloted by Brian Binney. It was during the second flight that SpaceShipOne's engine ignited right outside my window. During this flight, a new world record was set for the highest altitude reached by a single-wing craft. The previous record had been set in 1963 by the X-15, a military aircraft, with an altitude of 354,200 feet. SpaceShipOne beat that record with an altitude of 377,591 feet. Best of all, our team won the $10 million Ansari X Prize. Team members display the flag carried aboard SpaceShipOne during its historic first flight. SpaceShipOne Flight Path. 1. Boost. 2. Maximum height, 100 kilometers, 62 miles. 3. Re-entry. 4. Glide. Although all the space flights were complete, life did not slow down for a long time. Burt Rutan and the pilots of SpaceShipOne made several appearances on talk shows, including The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. I was also asked to speak for several functions in my home state of Kansas, which included a trip to my mom's 5th grade classroom and to my high school in McPherson. Anytime I gave a presentation, I tried to drive home the point that I'm just an ordinary guy who followed my dream. I was part of an amazing team of people that made this project a reality. No one person could have made this happen. It took a lot of teamwork and dedication from everyone. This has been the coolest, most tiring experience of my life. But it will be worth it if by the time you are my age, space travel is as common as flying an airplane is today. As a kid, I'd look up at the stars and dream of going to space. Now, almost on a daily basis, I spend time 50,000 feet closer to my dream. And it's awesome. With the record set and the goals achieved, SpaceShipOne has been retired to the halls of history. On October 5, 2005, SpaceShipOne was unveiled in its new home at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. It was kind of sad to see the plane go, as I had grown accustomed to seeing it around the shop. But I'm glad that it now hangs in its rightful place between Charles Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis and Chuck Yeager's Bell X-1 in the Milestones of Flight Gallery. Institution. An institution is an organization that has a particular focus or goal. SpaceShipOne now hangs in the Smithsonian Institution.